The Ambitious Radio Network. Conversations with ambitious entrepreneurs and thought leaders. Are you an entrepreneur, startup junkie, or just someone interested in improving their leadership skills? If you're looking to be motivated, inspired, and uncover what it takes to get to the next level, listening to Ambitious Radio will be well worth the investment of your time. We have weekly engaging conversations with today's most influential thought leaders and entrepreneurs as they discuss their successes, failures, tipping points, and other priceless information that you can apply immediately after listening. Now, here's your host, Doug Parker.
All right, welcome back to Ambitious Radio. This is your host, Doug Parker, and today we're going to be talking to Pam Goodwin. Pam's interest in entrepreneurship started whenever she was 4 years old with her first venture, a lemonade stand. Then she worked in her family's poultry business and ultimately was a tenant coordinator and project manager for several large shopping centers where they developed more than 50 pad sites for Brinker International. Some of you might know it as Chili's. After, just kind of getting tired of just making money for other people, Pam decided to open her own company, Goodwin Commercial, in 2006. And really what distinguishes her from others in her field is she has a long history of successfully guiding local and national clients like Walgreens and McDonald's and Chase, just to name a few, into their commercial real estate acquisitions. Pam has written and published 2 books, and she's a #1 best-selling author on Amazon and the creator of a 4-part audio real estate course. Pam was also selected as a Southwest Woman of Influence by the editors of Real Estate Forum. In her free time, she loves traveling, cheering for her alumni football team, the Nebraska Cornhuskers, watching her 2 boys as they play basketball. She enjoys living in Texas with her husband, Eric, and her 2 teenage sons, Grant and Garrett. Welcome to the show, ma'am. What did I miss?
I think you covered it. It's so great to finally be on your show. I am a huge fan of your Ambitious Radio show, Doug, so it is an honor for me to be on your show today.
Well, I appreciate that so much. It's always good to have listeners that tune in and you reached out to me, and I think you have something very unique that you bring to the table, and we're going to get into all the different things that you're doing and how you're helping folks. And I know you're tied in with Ziegler, which is some of the things over the years I've been tied in with. So I'm excited about having you on the show and learning from you myself. So let's just talk about you a little bit, kind of get to know you. I mean, where are you from? I know you talked about the lemonade stand, when you were 4 years old, and was that something that you did for a summer, or was that just a little small project? Where did you get started there?
I know, growing up in Omaha, Nebraska, my grandfather and my father were entrepreneurs and owned their own poultry business. So I feel like I have been working since I was 4 years old and really learning from them of how to start a business, how to engage your customers, how to stand out in business. I mean, when you're with my grandfather in Omaha, people still to this day will bring up to me how they used to their grandparents used to bring their live chickens to my grandfather's poultry place in the middle of the city by the packing house, bring their chickens in and provide the customer service for them at that time. That was definitely fresh poultry back then. So I grew up with entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. So now you grew up in Omaha, Nebraska, and that's I guess it's a kind of metropolitan area for Nebraska, but then now you're down in the Dallas area now, right?
Right.
So,
and we've been living here for 20 years now.
For 20 years. So what brought you to the Dallas area?
Well, after I left Omaha, I was offered a position for a big, large shopping center with a Han company at the time based in San Diego, and they actually relocated me from Omaha to Baltimore, which I worked on a large, 4-level mall expansion. And then from that, I decided to move across country to Los Angeles at that time, working on different projects. And then the Northridge earthquake happened in 1994, and a company based here in Dallas called MEPC Shopping Centers had just purchased it 30 days before the earthquake. And I worked on that project. And then after that, they moved me to Dallas. They thought it would be a short time, and we've been here for 20 years. It's a great place.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm from Texas, and so I have no need to go anywhere else because this is as good as it gets here, right? But as far as I'm concerned anyway. But so it sounds like a lot of the projects that you have done in real estate are more the commercial side of things, right?
Right. It's always been 100% shopping centers, retail. I've always focused on retail, I guess, because, being a young teenage girl in Omaha, we had no mountains or beach similar to Texas here. So the thing we had to do was always go shopping. So I've always been 100% retail.
Gotcha. Now, as it relates to, all those transitions, let's talk about obstacles for a minute. So what type of obstacles, during those transitions? I mean, you've moved from Omaha to Baltimore to California to Texas, and there was different transitions. But can you talk about maybe one obstacle that has stood out over the years to you, and then how you kind of transitioned and overcame that?
Sure. I've always been on the project management side, which means working inside construction, which means wearing a hard hat. So overcoming a field, even today in commercial real estate, being in a field primarily with males. And so at the time it seemed an obstacle, for a female to be in that industry. But definitely once you've proven yourself and gained credibility, those obstacles go away.
Sure, and it's I've often said that performance buys freedom in a lot of different ways, and so whenever you jump in and you prove that you can do stuff, it buys you a little bit more runway to prove yourself a little bit more. Now, so you said you're always kind of wearing a hard hat. So was it you're on the construction side of things, or there was construction going on, and then you're on the managing those projects, and so are people reporting to you? I mean, what was that experience like on a practical basis?
It was when the large shopping centers, the one, for instance, in Baltimore was a new expansion, which required a lot of new retail tenants opening. So I was right directly at the mall overseeing, I think, maybe about 150 new retail tenants opening up. So that required, wearing a hard hat and being inside the mall until the grand opening. And so my first part of my career was always large shopping center development, construction, reviewing architectural plans, and overseeing that process.
Gotcha. Now, as you focus on growing, I mean, can you tell us a little bit about the things that you do to improve yourself and grow as an entrepreneur?
Well, now, having my own business now in next month, it'll be 11 years, but you have to continue to network and continue to get out there in front of people. So I'm always learning. I think they say the more you learn, the more you earn. So every day, even in this business, being in it now for going on this year to be 30 years, I'm still learning every single day. And I have to research. Thank goodness for the internet, that it's a lot easier to look up to see what companies are doing, or listening to the public companies, listening to where their growth is going to be.
Gotcha. Well, and one of the things, you constantly got to be learning, because in reinventing yourself, I was actually posting something on Facebook a little bit earlier today with, we had a previous guest on episode 51, Nadia Zeximbaeva, and she is a chief reinvention officer. That's what she does, and she, helps people reinvent themselves, but you have to constantly be learning because the world is changing. And I read something the other day that you constantly, every, I think it's like 5 to 7 years, you need to be kind of reinventing yourself. Otherwise, you're likely to become irrelevant, and so nobody wants to be irrelevant. So that's good that you continue to learn, and I like that analogy of the more you learn, the more you earn. Now, I'm gonna throw a little bit of a curveball at you, but I like to ask this question from time to time. So, is there anything that you can think of in the past 5 years, maybe 10 years, maybe even more, that you were kind of like, this is how it is, and then with a little bit more learning or a little bit more education or knowledge on something, you've kind of changed your mind, either pivoted or maybe are diametrically opposed to that belief?
Well, I guess that is a curveball, but I guess what really comes to mind is, you always feel, with your career that you're comfortable doing something for a long time, and not until you get uncomfortable is when things start changing. And with me having my own business, I've always had business partners when we develop property. But last year decided it was always the financial part I always left up to my other partners to take care of, which means if they're handling the financial part, they're taking out that part of the ownership of the property. So I finally decided to learn that part of it and go into banks myself, asking for loans to, or private lenders, and which has really, really changed. I guess everybody has fear, and it was fear of not knowing, what to do on how to get the financial for the properties. And once I did, it was a lot easier than I thought to get.
That's a good thing, because, in the past you kind of delegated it out to someone else and were fearful of that. And it shows kind of how, as an entrepreneur, you start looking at things in a little different way. Is that something that you can do? And obviously you decided you can, and it's a profitable thing. Sometimes it's better to delegate and elevate. And then sometimes you realize that there are things that you're throwing money away by having someone else do, because you can effectively do it. And so that's something where it makes a whole lot of sense. And it really is, great information that you're sharing with us. And, kind of as we wrap up this segment, we'll jump into here in just a moment, a little bit more with Pam Goodwin as we get back into the Ambitious Radio Network, and we'll discuss her career pursuits and what's next here on the Ambitious Radio Network. Hey, ambitious listeners, you hear us interviewing entrepreneurs all the time, and there's a common theme. They want to be more productive and improve their communication. As an ambitious entrepreneur, you're always on the go. So turn your mobile phone into a business phone system with Grasshopper, the entrepreneur's phone system. The Ambitious Radio Network recently partnered with Grasshopper to offer our listeners a special discount. Log on to ambitiousradio.com and click on the Grasshopper banner in the bottom right-hand corner. Get a new business number or keep your current one. Sound professional with a main greeting and multiple extensions that forwards callers to your mobile phone or others in your organization. Get a toll-free number or local number for your business with multiple extensions. Set up each extension with custom call forwarding to any phone in the world. Get your voicemails emailed to you as an audio attachment or transcribed an email. Keep business calls separate from your personal calls. Plans start at $12 a month with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Remember to click on the Grasshopper banner at ambitiousradio.com for a special discount for our listeners. Join the over 150,000 small business owners that have stayed connected with Grasshopper. See how Grasshopper works? It's the entrepreneur's phone system. Turn the world into your office. All right, we're back on the Ambitious Radio Network, and we've got Miss Pam Goodwin with us today. And she is a real estate expert, but really specializes in commercial real estate. She's a published author, a #1 best-selling author on Amazon. So really just doing lots of great things. And, let's talk just a little bit about how you currently monetize your efforts. I know we talked about you're in the commercial real estate space, but how do you generate your revenue now as a business owner?
So there's primarily 3 different ways that we monetize. The #1 thing we do is develop property. So we actually buy property and then lease it to the national restaurants or retailers. But as we know, it can take sometimes a year to 2 years before you start seeing that rent and revenue come in. So we also do tenant brokerage, where we represent tenants, or we will represent people who actually own property, and some of them want to team up. So we're also a full, Texas brokerage firm. And then the third way is consulting. We are consulting on how to, we have some national tenants that may need to get a taller sign or fight City Hall on something. So they'll hire our firm to help them, either, on that consulting basis, or they need a development partner. And then I guess I could add a fourth. Lately, we are really into speaking and really sharing our knowledge of what we've learned on helping other people that are interested in getting into commercial real estate or developing property for cash flow.
And that brings up a really interesting point, because a long time ago, I've always been a guy that kind of is a vision guy, as far as, kind of casting my vision and dreaming and doing, wanting to do big things. And I've had an opportunity to do some things. I remember back when I was probably 20, I had this dream of wanting to have like a strip center that had maybe 4 or 6, 1,500 square foot, spaces in it, and maybe have like a donut place, a dry cleaners, like the normal stuff you see. And my thoughts were, hey, I own the real estate. Maybe I have a part ownership in the businesses, and, that they generate enough revenue from the businesses I'm part of pay for the place, and then I have another couple spaces that I lease out to someone else. And it didn't actually fall into place like that. I bought a 26,000 square foot building, and I have one tenant and myself. But there's always these different things that you put them out there. But the reason why I bring that up is because I used to think, everybody that I know that has money has some real estate. Now, not everybody has made it from real estate, but they have some of it, and it seemed to be a common denominator there. And so, when you and I were kind of talking in one of the pre-show kind of meetings, you had mentioned that a lot of people look at real estate as kind of the flipping houses or maybe, just buying houses and renting them out or whatever, but that the commercial side of things is really kind of what you've put your focus on, and you feel like that's a great direction to go. So can you talk about the dynamics of why you prefer the larger commercial stuff as opposed to the residential?
Right. And I just, with commercial real estate, you have typically dealing with national tenants, and they usually take the emotion out of when they're actually your tenant. But it's so nice when you actually own a property. A lot of people don't understand that you can put a piece of property under contract for as little as, $3,000 or $5,000 to put the property down. I mean, we owned a piece of land. Well, we didn't even own it. We actually put a piece of property down under contract. I think maybe it was $3,000, and then Discount Tires came by and wanted to buy it from us. So we just, bought it and closed on it the exact same day for, of course, a higher price. But I think everybody can get into commercial real estate. People think everything is over $1 million, and that's just not the case. And you can find a lot of property in your area if you go on loopnet.com, pull up that, and you can find property at all different prices.
Now, this loopnet.com, let's talk about that for a minute, because I'm not familiar with that. Is that kind of like an MLS or something, but for commercial instead of residential?
Right. So LoopNet is where everybody places all of their commercial listings that are available for sale or for lease. And I use it all the time. I have it downloaded on my phone, so when I'm in an area, it pops up everything. I mean, I'm always looking for land or buildings for sale, and it'll pop it up and tell you the contact information right there.
Gotcha. That makes perfect sense. This is why I actually love doing this show, is because I'm taking copious notes here. I'm going through everything, and I continue to learn from this. And so as long as I'm learning, I'm going to keep doing the show. I hope everybody else is learning from it as well. And I really do get great nuggets of information. Now, we talked a little bit about some of the fears that you had in the past, with going after, kind of in a male-dominated environment, and then also a little bit with stepping out on the financing and some of that. Are there any other things that come to mind that just over the years have been a fear for you? I know you said you grew up in kind of an entrepreneurial environment, but whenever you decided, was it maybe 2006, whenever you opened up your own brokerage or what have you, were there any fears that you had leading up to that, or was it just like a natural progression for you?
I remember the transition of, working for a large, one of the largest restaurant companies in the world, which was a fabulous company to work for. But I just knew that, working corporate America every single day, it's pretty tough. And I can honestly say, having my own business now, I cannot wait until Monday gets here. I mean, every day kind of blends in. Making my own time schedule, especially, having kids, it's just a great occupation to have. But yeah, as far as fear, as an entrepreneur, you feel, I'm unemployed every single day, which is probably a fear. So I have to get out there and hustle and make my own business every day.
I'm glad you brought up those points, because those are significant in that, unemployed every single day, and then also that you can't wait until Monday, and, that working for corporate America every day is tough, because here's what I see with the entrepreneurs, let's call them, okay? They really want to be an entrepreneur, but they haven't jumped out there and made it happen yet. And, one of the things I was reading on Damon Johns, the Shark Tank guy, he talked about people that they go cash out their 401k. They've got, I'm making a number up, but, a couple $100,000, they've saved their life savings, they're in their late 40s, early 50s, and they're going to go out and be an entrepreneur. And they take their nest egg and they blow it, and they go into work 40 hours a week somewhere else, and they blow through their savings, and then they don't have anything. And, what he recommended was, you get out there and you hustle. You work your 8-hour day, and then you go work another 6 or 8 hours on what you want to do for your entrepreneurial gig. And then when you get it making enough money where it's self-sustaining and it's making money and making more money than you're making as your day job, then you can jump out and be an entrepreneur. But, because some people, they just don't want to work, working in corporate America being tough, they just don't want to work the 9 to 6 hours. They want to work when they want to work. And sometimes they don't realize that as an entrepreneur, like you said, you're unemployed every day. You get up, nobody's telling you what to do, and if you don't make it happen and sell something or cause some activity to happen, you're not getting a paycheck either. And while you do have some freedom, there's nobody to delegate it to and those kind of things sometimes. So those are fantastic points that you brought up there, and really, really appreciate you sharing that with us. Now, let me ask you this. If you could go back in life at any point in your life and give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be? At what point in your life, were you? And kind of what would that be?
I know, going back, probably, writing a book, which I highly recommend to everyone. And so one day I had the opportunity to meet Mr. Zig Ziglar, and he actually came up to me. I went up to him, and then he asked me that first thing, have you written a book? And I said, no, not yet. And he said, that's my number one advice to you. Go write a book. And I did. And I want to share that to the audience. Everyone should write a book.
That is something I absolutely talked about vision a little bit earlier. I'm looking at my vision board right now in my office, and I have on there a book that I'm putting together. And writing a book, I think it's in a way it could be therapeutic. It can share with others. It puts something down in for all of the years to come as well. So now, real quick, we've got maybe a minute left in this segment. Can you tell us, I know you've got a couple books. Can you tell us about really just like maybe the titles of those two books and what they're about?
Sure. The first book that I did was 1 Cent Lemonade to $1 Million Deals, 25 Jobs and 25 Lessons I Wish I Learned Sooner. And I had the great opportunity to have Barbara Corcoran do my testimonial on the cover. So I'm very excited about that. And that one just talks about the ruts, guts, and shortcuts to success. It's really lessons. When you ask me what I wish I would have done sooner, I wish I knew a lot of this information. And I break down 25 of the jobs, which is anything from lemonade to delivering newspaper, all of the different jobs I've had, so that, you can have the competitive edge or knowing, how to break all the rules or being your own boss. So it really gives some valuable tips. And then the second book I did was the Winning Ways in Commercial Real Estate. And we actually did that with 17 other women in commercial real estate, primarily all here from Texas, each person. So if you feel like you can't write an entire book, each one of these did one chapter talking about their story of how they were able to get into commercial real estate, and some really, really good stories. And both of these books are on Amazon.
Well, cool. We'll put those in the show notes as we always do, and I appreciate you sharing those with us. And one last thing, do you have any books in addition to yours that you might recommend?
I have an entire huge library of books, but one of my favorites is If You Don't Have Big Breasts, Put Ribbons on Your Pigtails, and Other Lessons I Learned from My Mom, which is written by Barbara Corcoran. So that's one of my books. And another person I follow, I think a lot of people mention on your show, is Grant Cardone and a guy named Jack Daly. Any of the people that are, have done that and in sales, any tips that you can learn is always valuable to I read every single day. So pick up a book, paragraph, chapter. I have more books, so Great way to learn.
I got you. I got them running out my ears, and sometimes, I don't get all the way through them, and I'll try to listen to them if I can't read them. And I, like you, I really enjoy having that information. And the great thing, whether it's a Grant Cardone or Barbara Corcoran, there's a lot of fundamentals that are out there that you will hear the fundamentals presented slightly differently, but the same fundamentals. And so it gets to reinforce it, and you hear all these different things over and over again, and they start to sink in. So as you mentioned there, highly recommend reading, listening, and continuing to get better at things. And this is really great stuff for our ambitious listeners. We've got Miss Pam Goodwin with us here today. And if you like what you hear, you can text by subscribing the word ambitious to 69922. Standard messaging rates apply. See the website for full details. Next, we're going to be talking more to Miss Pam about the ambitious things that she's doing right now and what's next right here on the Ambitious Radio Network.
Could you lose your career because of your faith? Could your pastor be sued because of his sermons? Can students and teachers be punished because of what they believe about God or what they say? Can the government or even your employer force you to violate your beliefs? Get the answers, and if necessary, legal protection from First Liberty Institute. This is Kelly Shackelford, president of First Liberty. We're the nation's largest legal organization dedicated exclusively to restoring religious freedom in America. In fact, First Liberty's nationwide network of top attorneys win over 90% of their cases. We've won at the Supreme Court all the way down to the local schools. Visit firstliberty.org to learn more about how First Liberty is protecting religious freedom for all Americans in the workplace, public schools, your church, the military, and more. That's firstliberty.org.
All right, we're back with Pam Goodwin, and I'll tell you what, I'm enjoying it. I'm getting lots of great nuggets out of this interview, and I know our listeners are as well. And what we want to jump into next is really how you determine what's next. I know you're a published author. You've been an entrepreneur for over a decade. And, how do you transition through making those decisions? What does that decision-making process look like? Because as an entrepreneur, you can do just about anything you want to. You don't have a boss, telling you have to do this and that. So how do you go through your daily basis of decision-making on what's the next project to work on?
I know, because I probably, like most entrepreneurs, have that shiny, bright object syndrome and can get completely distracted. So I've learned from the experts that you really have to time block your schedule and know what's important. And everybody used to tell you, especially during this time, to write down your goals. And probably years ago, I'd write down 20, 30 goals. But now I'm focused on primarily just 1, 2, 3 goals. And I have to really just focus on blocking the time to make sure what's important. And I put, the top money makers at the top.
So let's talk about time blocking. So I hear you say that now, but what do you mean by that? How do you practically apply that, and what does a time block look like?
Well, I know pretty much between 9 and 12 o'clock is the best time to make the phone calls. At that time is what I really spend, making up those phone calls. And then primarily the other half of the day, or a couple hours of the day, is looking for new development projects to do, in which we always seem to find hidden opportunities. For example, visiting the dry cleaners, letting him know that his location would be a much better fast food spot than his dry cleaners, asking him if he would ever consider selling. So always looking for opportunities to, figure out what to focus on.
Perfect. Now that makes a lot of sense. And now you bring up another interesting point. So, entrepreneurs, imagine a successful entrepreneur that's running a dry cleaners, and, they think they're doing good and doing their thing. And then you roll up in there and you're like, hey, look, your place would be a better restaurant than a dry cleaners. Would you be interested in selling it? So that's a bold move. They may have been there for a while, and, but you have to be bold about things. So, do you just walk in and say, hey, who's the owner, and hey, I think this is the situation, or what does that look like?
Right. So always, I do know that the owner is the one typically a lot of the times bringing out your clothes. So, just asking him, handing over your card. I mean, to me, in this business, you have to be fairly persistent or in a nice way. And it took several meetings to show him on a pro forma on what he could, possibly make off of the establishment. And it turns out that he actually has considered relocating. So now we just got the, listing and going forward with that.
Interesting. Well, I look forward to hearing how that goes because, with entrepreneurs, it's really looking for things that are out there. And some people, I use kind of the analogy of they have pain and they don't even know it. They've just gotten used to the numbness of it because it's what they've been going through for so long. But you can go through and show them how there is a little bit of pain. And it might be that the pain is it's a dry cleaners that, they're making whatever money they're making. But if they sold their property, they can, cash out a big lump sum and have enough money to relocate and not struggle. And there's people that have their businesses that are struggling along, but you present it and it opens it up for them just because you were bold about what you're doing. So that's great stuff. Now let me kind of jump into a couple of other things. Now on the writing a book. So you're talking to Zig and Zig says, "Hey, you should write a book." Now so somebody drops a nugget on you like that, you listen, and how did you go about writing your first book? What did that process look like, and how long did it take you? And was that the one that you wrote a chapter, or was that the other book?
It was the first book, the 1 Cent Lemonade's $1 Million Deal. So the process was, once I kind of figured out what I wanted to write on, I just did a quick summary of each topic, and then I actually got online to find out what the next steps were and hired a company as a, kind of a ghostwriter to help put it in, some chapters for you in the format for you. And I hired a person called the Writing Genie, and they actually helped walk me through the entire process. And it was a great way to go. Then the fear came in of once you're ready to hit the OK button for it to be published, you're hoping there's not a misspelled word or grammar or anything, and then you completely have to get over that fear and figure even the national big-time sellers have errors. So, but you can actually finish a book definitely within 6 months. I mean, it really should not take you any longer than that.
Gotcha. And is that another time blocking deal that you just carved out X amount of time every day, or because I've heard about this, writer's block where you kind of get going and then it's like nothing's happening and you got to stimulate your mind or something. How was that rhythm for you?
Right. So yeah, just writing a little bit at a time here and there, but yeah, just taking the time a couple times a week at least to do that. And I really believe in, with your first book, getting help on it. If not, it will take you years and years. I mean, I have friends, and I've given them recommendations on people that can help them, walk them through the process and help them, with those when it comes to a block and they will definitely help you with that and keep you accountable to get it done.
Gotcha. And this Writing Genie that you mentioned now, is it like the writinggenie.com, or can you Google it and get more information?
Right. I use the company, they've changed the name, but it's now called Upwork, work.com. And they can help you with anything from book covers to graphics to web pages to writing a book to ghost writers to anything. Because I had done my research on it, and there's, had other publishers, but they can get pretty expensive.
Okay.
And going on Upwork to help you get your book done. I have a local person here now, though. After that, I would highly recommend her to help you. If you want to write a book, I could, get her contact information, because she's the one I would definitely hire for my next book to walk you through the whole process and get it done within, I think it's a 10-week process.
Oh, okay. Very good. Very good. Well, that's some great information. I'm sure there's lots of entrepreneurs listening today that have, their story to share. And just to get through that process of writing a book, becoming a published author. It adds to your resume. It does all kinds of cool stuff. And so we got a couple minutes left in this segment, and I really want to talk about this upcoming seminar that you have that is with Ziglar, and I know that Julie is part of that as well. And it's called let's see here, Women Building Wealth. Learn to win in life and real estate. And then you're going to have a lot of experts, industry experts there. It's going to be on February the 11th from 9 a.m. until noon. So can you tell us a little bit about where it's going to be held and what can be expected in some of the speakers?
Sure. It's going to be, like you said, on February 11th from 9 a.m. until 12. So 3 hours at the Ziglar Inc. headquarters, which they've just relocated to a new location at 15400 Knoll Trail, and it's actually on Eventbrite if you want to sign up. But we're going to have 4 speakers. Julie Ziglar, who helped her father around the world and was his editor of 25 books. She's talking on being financially fearless. I will be talking about commercial real estate, 0 to 1 million with one deal. So how to make $1 million on one deal. Dee will be talking on prime for profit, single family investments. So if you think a large commercial project is too large, you can start with single family homes. And then we have Heather, who will be talking on if you're interested in buying multifamily, which is a really hot market in Texas today. So we just really, things happen in life, and trying to support women so that you don't have to live or work until you die, or, people go through divorce, or people go through spouses passing away. And how do you, financially secure yourself? And we think real estate, we want to just show you some examples of how you can buy real estate and have that cash flow.
Sure, that makes a whole lot of sense. And, as we had talked, like I said, in the pre-show, so many people look at the, residential stuff and the smaller stuff, but there's about the same amount of work in the commercial, from what I understand. And whether it's the residential and the multifamily, that's also kind of the similar amount of work. You just have to strategically go through it and put it together. So that's great information for our listeners. And after we hear a brief word from our sponsors, we'll be right back on the Ambitious Radio Network talking more to Pam Goodwin.
Another RepairMyCreditNow.com story.
It's a day this family had dreamed of for quite some time. They were finally getting that brand new SUV. The salesperson at the auto dealership gave them the keys and told them to take it for the weekend. He'd prepared the documents and called them Monday morning. The kids had already installed the headrest DVD when the phone rang. Seems there was a problem with their credit they were unaware of. They'd have to return the SUV to the dealership immediately. Embarrassing, to say the least.
www.repairmycreditnow.com.
Hello, this is Doug Parker with RepairMyCreditNow.com. Do you have less than perfect credit, a repo, maybe some late payments, a collection account? Are they being reported accurately? Studies show that over 70% of Americans have inaccuracies on their credit reports. Where do you fit in? Go to RepairMyCreditNow.com for your free credit report evaluation. And remember, your credit is your future. If you want to get started now, log on now. RepairMyCreditNow.com.
RepairMyCreditNow.com. www.repairmycreditnow.com.
All right, we're back on the Ambitious Radio Network, and it's hard to believe, the time just flies by, that we are on the last segment, but we are. And so we've got Miss Pam Goodwin here today. And Pam, thanks for coming on the show. It's been a great show today.
I know. Thanks again, Doug, for having me.
Sure. Well, so let's talk a little bit. Like I said, I know you're a published author, you're an entrepreneur, you've got kids, you're sporting events, you're doing this, you're married, all that can drain people. All that ambition at some point you gotta rest. And so your daily rhythm and how you recharge your ambitious body, mind, and spirit. What does an average day look like for you? What time do you get up and how do you get your day started?
I know. I'm actually an early riser. So like this morning, I think I was up about 5:40, but definitely usually up by 6 a.m. before, the husband and kids get up so I can start getting organized. I find that's an excellent way when I get to check my social media and check my emails, so I don't have to do that a lot during the day. But then once I drive the boys to school, they're in high school, about to drive themselves here soon. But once I get back to my office, I spend the rest of the day, on the top priorities, my top goals of the day, and pretty much finish up by, at least 5 o'clock, back picking them up, dinner, grocery shopping, all that stuff, throwing some exercise at least in there every day. I have to at least go walk and run, and yoga is a great way.
Now, do you have that like scheduled in? Is that like a must-have no matter what, or is it if I've got time for it, then I do a walk or some exercise or some yoga?
No, I definitely have to fill that in every single day, some format of exercise. So, and definitely that's a planned thing somehow. You may even see me, I have to doing some squats or something even while I'm cooking. So trying to fit it in sometime, but it definitely is important.
Hey, and it's interesting. Last week we had Lee Dumas on the show. He's the host of Entrepreneur on Fire, and he's just one of the biggest in podcasting world. And he was talking about in the morning OPA other people's agenda. He's like, hey, I block it out. So kind of a little different than you. He gets up in the morning, gets going, and doesn't check any social media, nothing to do with anybody else's agenda. He just focuses on himself. So whether it be exercise, kind of meditating, getting his daily rhythm going. And I, like you, I'm guilty of like rolling out of bed and pulling out my phone and like blowing out whatever emails are in there and looking to see if I need to respond to anything. And I've tried to change up that rhythm a little bit, but I don't quite have it down yet, because it's kind of almost addicting. You want to see what's going on, what do you have to, respond to. And it kind of, his thought process was, it's not likely that anything's going to explode or whatever just because I wait an hour or two to check my emails. And so that's something that I'm looking forward to, because I, like you also, I will literally be getting ready in the morning and like brushing my teeth, and I may do a couple squats, 10 instead of 10 or something, because I'm like, hey, I'm trying to multitask here. And I've got some perfect push-ups in the office where, every once in a while, a couple times a day, I'll just put my feet in a chair and do a couple sets of push-ups, because I'm just trying to get, squeeze time from somewhere, and I don't have time to go to the gym, get sweaty, spend an hour or two round trip on exercise and all that. I just can't find time to do that. But and mine's not scheduled. Mine is just kind of catch as catch in. See if hopefully I can get one or two or three of those types of things in a day, just to keep me from being crazy unhealthy. So I know that's a crazy thing with entrepreneurs. So now when you talk about you get up at 5:40 or up by 6 pretty much every morning, and then you've got your daily activities, you're doing all that. So what time do you go to sleep at night?
I am definitely in bed early, at least watching TV. So definitely by 9:30 or 10. And I'm pretty much lights out by 10:30.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
I'm the first in my household to, it's kind of a joke in my household, but I have always been an early riser and an early to bed person.
Absolutely. Well, it looks like, so that based upon my rough math there, it looks like you're probably getting 7 to 8, maybe even 9 hours of sleep sometimes. So that's very healthy. I hear about these guys and gals that get 4 or 5 hours of sleep, and I don't know how the heck they do it, because I got to have some sleep myself. But that's good. Now, when it comes to like a work-life balance, do you feel like as an entrepreneur that you have a work-life balance? Do you have that kind of figured out, or do you think it's like a lot of entrepreneurs that it's kind of always flirting with the edge there?
No, I feel like, I definitely feel like I have it under control, because I've created that. I always feel bad when I hear somebody, not being able to take a day off because they don't have any more vacation time. And if I want to go get my hair done like yesterday at 12, I can, and not feel guilty about it. And that's, being in corporate America, I felt guilty about everything, leaving early, wanting to take more time off. And now that's one less stress thing of not having to worry about that. But I feel like I pretty much have it down pretty well now. Hopefully, things are moving pretty smoothly right now.
Good. Well, that's great, and it's something to strive for, definitely as an entrepreneur. Now, I'll throw one more curveball at you. So, it's been about 10 years or so since you first, became an entrepreneur. You left the corporate world. Let's say the first maybe 18 to 24 months after you started your company. What was that like? Was there a balance there, or was it a grind for a while?
Well, thank goodness, and I would advise this to people if you're thinking about starting a business. I actually teamed up with someone in commercial real estate for the first 4 years to help me get on my feet and get started, and that was a big benefit to be able to learn from him as my mentor for the first 4 years to really help out. So if you're thinking about leaving corporate, you may want to, maybe not so much partnership, but teaming up with somebody that can help you, leap in right away, that already has established business, and you can get going and start making money right away.
That's great advice. Always, seek other people that have experience with stuff and, can give you guidance. It's so important. The people that you surround yourself by. Jim Rohn used to say the 5 people you surround yourself by, you become the average of those. In Proverbs, it talks about a wise, when he who walks with the wise will become wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. And when you're in business, it affects so many other things. And if your business isn't going well, typically the income's not going well, and, so many divorces and fights are caused over money. And so, it's really a good idea to get around some wise people with your business transactions to make sure you keep everything in line. So, well, as we wrap up here, Ms. Pam, let's say that somebody wanted to engage with you. Let's say that they want to come to the event, and we will put a link on there, but maybe they wanted to ask you a question or two. Are you social? Are you out there on the social media or email? How's the best way to communicate with you?
Yeah, I would. Please, definitely. I'm very, very social on LinkedIn. I just passed, which I'm excited about, 10,000 connections on LinkedIn. I'm on that every single day. So please connect with me at Pam Goodwin on LinkedIn. I'm also on Facebook, also on Twitter. And please feel free to give me a call. My cell phone number is 214-929-9013. I'd be happy. If you're interested in getting into commercial real estate, I can definitely guide you in that direction. Or please feel free to email me at pam@pamgoodwin.com.
Cool. Well, I'll tell you what, we will get all of this packed into the show notes when you go to ambitiousradio.com. And once again, Pam, I want to thank you for coming on. I love, learning new things and stuff that's a little bit different. We've had some real estate people on in the past, but you have really shared some great information, and we'll get all this uploaded onto the site so that as people are listening to this, they can, go to those links and make it happen. And hopefully the event that you guys are having over at the Ziegler's place, it'll just be a great event. I do see that it says seats are limited, so make sure, guys, if you are interested, it does say that you can call for more info at 214-929-9013, which happens to be Pam's telephone number. So I'm looking at the form here, and I just saw that as I jotted it down. So yeah, give her a call, get out there and check that out, and tune in on Saturdays. And yes, I did say Saturdays now because our show has changed to Saturdays to Ambitious Radio, where we interview thought leaders and exciting entrepreneurs changing the faces of their organizations. Remember, you can make money or you can make excuses, but you cannot make both. So go out there and be ambitious.
Thank you for listening to the Ambitious Radio Network, hosted by serial entrepreneur Doug Parker. Join us weekly as we have engaging conversations with ambitious entrepreneurs and thought leaders on topics that can be applied immediately after listening. Like what you've heard? Listen to other interviews at ambitiousradio.com or subscribe on iTunes.